Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. You know, time goes by, and in a short time frame or a long time frame, for the most part, a lot of things stay the same. You know, really in the end, especially when it comes to people, not much changes. And when it comes to Kamala Harris, that statement is absolutely true. Time has gone by, and Kamala Harris still remains as an absolutely terrible politician, and possibly an even worse human being. You know, all I ask is, in certain situations, people know their place. You know, on certain topics and certain issues, I don't necessarily know what I'm talking about, so what I do is I take a step back, and I let the highly educated and the experts discuss, and maybe I'll ask questions and chime in here and there. And in situations where I may be a hypocrite taking a particular stance or trying to make a certain point, well, I won't get involved, because I know if I did say something, then I'd be an absolute massive hypocrite. But that's sort of self-awareness to know when and when not to say things. You know, being a normal, level-headed human being? Yeah, that's not Kamala Harris. And the question remains, just like Jill Biden and Nancy Pelosi and all of these other left-wing elitist Democrat hacks, the question I'm always asking myself is, do they not get it? Do they not see the obvious? And especially with Kamala Harris, does she not have the ability to realize that taking a stance on this particular issue is going to make her look absolutely terrible, knowing her track record and her past careers in the state of California? But apparently either Kamala Harris or her team are too incompetent, or they just don't care and are willing to be massive, utter hypocrites because they know the media is going to let them get away with it anyways. Well, folks, Kamala Harris has zero, and I mean zero, a big fat zero, self-awareness. This whole Brittany Griner situation being sentenced to 9.5 years in prison by the Russian court system, well, the literal last person that should ever speak on this issue in the political realm is Kamala Harris. Let me show you guys what's going on here. She's getting absolutely torched on Twitter. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so like I said, some things never change. Kamala Harris, being the worst human being, never changes. And apparently, Tulsi Gabbard absolutely shredding Kamala Harris, well, that hasn't changed either. Tulsi Gabbard shreds Kamala Harris over a response to Griner sentencing. Former Democrat Hawaii Representative Tulsi Gabbard tore into Vice President Kamala Harris, a former prosecutor, over her response to the imprisonment and sentence of WNBA star Brittany Griner in Russia. Here's Kamala's tweet. With today's sentencing, Russia continues its wrongful detention of Brittany Griner. She should be released immediately. At POTUS and I, and our entire administration, are working every day to reunite Brittany, as well as Paul Whelan, with loved ones who miss each of them dearly. Tulsi Gabbard reacted to Kamala Harris's tweet live on Fox. Take a look at this.
The thing that struck me when I saw Kamala Harris's tweet and her statement expressing this outrage about Brittany Griner, first of all, let me say, I don't think anybody anywhere in the world should be imprisoned for marijuana possession. Period. Full stop. When you look at Kamala Harris's statement on Twitter, she's expressing this outrage about Brittany Griner. My question for her and the Biden administration is, where is your outrage for your fellow Americans who are sitting in prison today here in the United States of America because of minor marijuana violations? How come you are not fighting as hard for them to be returned home and reunited with their families as you are for Brittany Griner? And to me, the message to the American people through their actions is loud and clear, is that if you are rich and powerful or famous, then you will get special treatment from this administration. If you are not, we don't care about you and we're going to let you sit there and rot in jail. Unfortunately, like too many politicians, it seems like she puts her finger to the wind and decides what things she's supposed to be angry about on any given day, and then if it becomes politically inconvenient or damaging, then she'll switch the other way.
Well, I couldn't have said it better myself. I mean, Kamala Harris is literally the last person who should be speaking on this particular issue. All we gotta do is a little flashback to Tulsi Gabbard taking down Kamala Harris during the 2019-2020 Democrat primary ahead of the presidential election.
Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
I mean, the articles are everywhere, the facts are clear. How Kamala Harris fought to keep non-violent prisoners locked up. As California Attorney General, she spent years subverting a 2011 Supreme Court ruling requiring the state to reduce its prison population. The overseeing judicial panel nearly found the state in contempt of court. Campaign fact check, here's how Kamala Harris really prosecuted marijuana cases. San Francisco, Kamala Harris's opponents and critics have picked apart her prosecution of marijuana crimes during her presidential run, knocking her for her over-aggressive jailing of pot users and lambasting her as a hypocrite for saying that she now supports the legalization of this substance. Harris oversaw more than 1,900 marijuana convictions in San Francisco. Previously unreported records from the DA's office show her prosecutors appear to have convicted people on marijuana charges at a higher rate than under her predecessor based on data about marijuana arrests in the city. Top cop Kamala Harris was a hawk, putting people in jail for non-violent drug offenses, trying to keep the prison population high and keep them in there as long as possible. And now we're supposed to sit here and take Kamala Harris seriously as she fights for Brittney Griner's release and claims that Russia continues its wrongful detention of Brittney Griner. Another absolutely absurd statement. The White House previously claimed that Russia was keeping Brittney Griner as a hostage. The words they continue to use to describe the situation are utterly dishonest and disingenuous. Brittney Griner is not a hostage. Brittney Griner is not being wrongfully detained. You know, basic state sovereignty needs to be respected. It's something that must be respected. When you go to a particular country, you must abide by the laws of said country the moment you pass over the border. That reality is something everybody has to respect and live by. And just because you're a fancy left-wing celebrity doesn't mean those rules don't apply to you. The whole situation is just ridiculous. I mean, do I feel bad for Brittney Griner? Absolutely. Does it suck? Is it a situation? Absolutely. But she is not being wrongfully detained. She is not a hostage. She is merely facing the consequences of her poor decision making. It's that simple. And all we're seeing from the Biden administration here is them trying to capitalize on this situation. They know that Brittney Griner, notorious anthem kneeler, notorious America hater, and woke leftist icon, is popular with the left-wing Twitter base. And so they're trying to do everything in their power, regardless of how ridiculous they sound and how hypocritical they are, to get her back. Folks, I really think it's starting to backfire. Kamala Harris on this one probably should have just taken a back seat and not opened her mouth. I mean, it's very recent history. It's baked into people's minds that top cop Kamala Harris, major hypocrite Kamala Harris, Mrs. I used to smoke the reefer back in college and listen to Tupac and Snoop Dogg while simultaneously prosecuting 1,900 marijuana cases. Well, the irony, the hypocrisy isn't lost on your average person who's paying attention. This whole thing continues to backfire. Joe Biden planning on trading a notorious Russian arms dealer for Brittney Griner again, not something that most people are viewing as a favorable trade, because probably most people are smart enough to realize that if they traveled to Russia and went through Russian customs carrying illegal substances and they were subsequently arrested, well, because they aren't fancy leftist, liberal, left-wing activist icon Brittney Griner, they aren't some celebrity with name recognition or face recognition, that they would be left there to rot in prison and nobody would even know that they exist. Just like the 1,900 people that Kamala Harris sentenced to prison time for the same kind of offenses in the state of California. This whole situation is a complete mess, and funnily enough, you know, Obama said it best himself all those years ago. Never underestimate Joe Biden's ability to F things up, Obama said. Well, never underestimate the Biden-Harris administration's ability to F things up, and here we go again. That's exactly what they're doing. Misstep at every single turn, and their political stock, their political image, continues to tank as a result. The Biden administration is basically running a clinic on how not to run a government and how not to do foreign policy and diplomacy. And actually, once again, now that I think about it, another thing that remains the same and hasn't changed or isn't changing with timing is Kamala Harris's need to fire literally everybody who works with her. I mean, we've seen the messaging blunders coming out of the vice president's office for nearly 2 years now, but seriously, who is consulting and advising Kamala Harris to be coming out publicly as the White House spokesperson against Brittney Griner being imprisoned in Russia? She is literally the last person to speak on this issue, and the fact that she nor her team couldn't realize that shows you exactly how dumb these people really are. But that, of course, is what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave a like and maybe subscribe to the channel if you feel like it. I'm gonna get back to work. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.